Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Dan Brookman. I'm the CEO here at Airship and Toggle. I'm delighted today to welcome James Newman to join me from Brain Fuud. James is recording this session as a little bit of a warm-up for us ahead of his more in-depth masterclass, which is going to be on the 18th of March, and it's all about pricing. And you can register for that masterclass online at airship.co.uk or at usetoggle.com. I've known James for a good number of years and first met him at probably the most funky head office I've ever been to, which was Red's True Barbecue in Leeds, which was like a wooden office playground within a massive industrial shed. And since then, James has gone on to work as the sales and marketing director at Gusto, and most recently has set up Brain Fuud with Mark Bailey, who's ex-Cube3, which is a digital agency in Manchester, again, who I worked with on the Revolution Bars account. And they set up that in the last year. And welcome, James. Thanks for joining me today. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Cheers. Thank you. All right. So, yes, I set up Brain Fuud, which is a F&B specialist marketing agency. And I did that at the beginning of last year. So back in 2019, I thought that I wanted to get out of in-house and give it a go on the agency side, which is my former background. So I had a chat with the MD at Gusto. There's a good mate of mine, Matt, and handed my notice in January, and then March happened and COVID, and so that was a real moment of clarity to think, what have I done here? And so I started officially with my own business in June, and started with Matt actually back at Gusto. And since then, it's certainly been a challenging couple of months, but starting to see some green shoots there. So our proposition is that we build virtual marketing teams for people working in F&B. So I myself am a virtual marketing director. Mark is a virtual digital director. And then we are the strategic hub. And we will look at briefs and the business challenge, and then that we will build a virtual team for that particular client. And that means that will be a bespoke team, bespoke to whatever their needs are. So that's been Brain Fuud. It's been definitely a baptism of fire over these last months, but it's good. And I think that what we're going to chat about today is something that is it's incredibly important and holds so much value for the hospitality industry. And as we this whole session that you guys are kindly hosting about coming back stronger is so pertinent, because price is, you're going to see, is the most important element in driving profit for a business. So if we can get that right, that's going to help out the businesses that you represent.
Brilliant. Thanks. Right. Well, I will let you crack on. As I said, this is a little bit of a teaser against what James is going to be doing around the 18th of March. So how do you stop leaving money or losing money off the table, hey?
All right. Well, look, so what I'm going to cover off is, why is price important in terms of profit? What is then marketing's role in pricing? And then we're going to share with you some consumer-orientated approaches to actually how you can get better at pricing. Specifically, I'm going to chat to you about a pricing model which got a funky name called the Van Vestor pricing model. I introduced that for, I'm going to show you a little case study on what I did, how that works, and what that delivered. Then I'm going to cover off the uphill battle of discounting, which is the perennial problem in our industry, and that conundrum of volume versus profit. Yep. And then if there's time, just going to cover off something around menu engineering and a Stardog model that I've used across my time. So I think one of the key points I just want to make at the start, right, is that all the things that I'm sharing here have been learned over time, and whether that is me doing extra courses. So for example, I did the Mark Ritson CIM one last year, which was hugely valuable. I was reading books, or it's fucking up and making my own massive mistakes and realizing what hasn't worked, and quite quickly changing things. So this is definitely not a case of preaching. It's definitely kind of, look, just don't make these same mistakes.
Right.
So what influences us in terms of not correctly pricing? So the first thing I wanted to kind of share is this idea around kind of confirmation bias. So we as humans are psychologically predisposed to being influenced more by negative concepts than we are positive. And why does that matter in marketing? Well, we are the voice of the guest. And if, like me, you have or do work with the likes of Feed It Back or Young Pingo, you will be constantly hit by that stream and that channel of all the different customer communications coming in. And there will be countless customers who will complain and be negative about price. And so that really starts to kind of build up in your mind that there is an issue around price, and you cannot touch price. A good recommendation for book is this one. So people should read that if they are interested in psychology and behavioral economics. There's a ton of stuff in there, some really cool, juicy stuff relevant to marketing and how psychological aspects influence our decision making. So this idea of confirmation bias and kind of negative thoughts. The key point here, right, to remember is that every single guest, by and large, is going to ask for a discount or money off, or say that you're too expensive. It's what customers do. And what you have to do is accept that you're going to lose some customers who are not prepared to pay the price that you charge. But that is a good thing. If you have not got customers complaining about your price, you are priced wrong. And people complaining about your price is a good sign that you're actually on the right part of the demand curve. So pricing and negative thoughts, yeah. So that's one element that means that we don't price correctly. The second thing is, quite frankly, just a lack of knowledge and an unstrategic approach to pricing. So look, I have been there and done this and experienced this, but I bet you the people that are watching this, if I was to ask how do you price, there'll be finger in the air will probably be one of the things that you'll come up with. Another good one that I've certainly done in the past is you look at competitors, or the competitors that you think are your competitors, and you look at their pricing and you kind of go, well, I think we're a little bit more premium than them, so we'll stick 25p on that. Or then there's the cost plus model. So you take your COGS and then you add on a percentage that you'll get from finance, because that's in the model. And what all of those approaches totally miss is the most important part of it, which is actually guess and what do guests think. And it's just, quite frankly, not a customer orientated way to kind of approach it. And what it does is it totally ignores customer segmentation, the fact that different customers are willing and perceive prices very differently. So what we should be doing is looking at value-based pricing. So actually, what does the customer perceive? So what I wanted to share with you here is this, which is a pricing thermometer. So at the bottom, you have got COGS. So that is your baseline. And so if you are a product orientated business, you will look at the COGS, and as I say, you will add on a percentage, and bosh, that's your pricing. But as I said, that ignores the customer. So what you should be looking at is at the top end of that pricing thermometer. So there's this theoretical idea called true economic value. So what that says, if you've got your ideal customer and they were totally fully informed and they knew everything about your product, and you had done the best job that you can in positioning your business and your product, that is the value that you can charge. What we need to do is come down that pricing thermometer and move into this area of reality, which is actually the perceived value. So the perceived value of your customers to your business. And our job as marketeers is to understand that point and to stick our price as close to that perceived value as possible. If you get it wrong and we price it too high, then obviously put customers off. 9 times out of 10, though, we will put it too low and we will be leaving money on the table. And so the way that you get to knowing that perceived value is to do some market research. So why is price important when it comes to profit? So some much more cleverer people than I have done a really detailed piece of research. And what this looked at is that look at the 4 different levers that you can implement in your business to drive profit into your business. So you can increase your price, you can increase the volume to get more people through your doors. You can look at your variable costs, so re-engineering some dishes, and dishes on your menus. Or you can look at fixed costs, which I appreciate, from a marketing point is difficult, but, rates or rent. And so what they did is they looked at that and they said, right, if you had a 1% increase in price or volume or a 1% saving in variable and fixed costs, what does that drop down in terms of profit? And this is the fascinating bit. So if you were to increase the volume in your business, you're doing some marketing activity and you got more people through your doors, that would net down to, on average, a 3.3% profit gain. If you were to look at re-engineering dishes and you were to do that to a saving of 1% across the business, that would drop down to 6.5% profit. If you looked at fixed, that drops down to a 2.5% profit. If you were to make a 1% increase in your price, that drops down to 10% profit. And when you look at that and you step back from that and you really consider how difficult and challenging it would be before you reopen to do some research and to stick a 1% increase in your prices on your menu, you will have a demonstrable effect to the business as you work. So a really, really important element here. So how do you go about researching? So what I want to say here is that this is why marketing needs to own pricing. So when I was at Red, marketing didn't own pricing. That was operations and finance. When I moved to Gusto, Matt, the chief exec, empowered me with the authority to own pricing. And why is that important? Well, it's coming back to this points that we've just covered, that to truly understand that perceived value and be able to price correctly, you need to understand guests. And there is no one in a business that knows guests better than marketing. We are the voice of the guests. So that is why marketing must own pricing, but you need to know how to do it. So there are lots of different ways that you can research your guests when it comes to pricing. So you can do qualitative. In my experience, that never really works. You can do some quite simple quantitative surveys. So, using some Likert scales and getting some feedback there. But it's very, very simplistic. And in reality, guests really don't know. So the model that I have found worked for me, and I picked this up in the CIM course that I did last year, was something called the Van Vestorp pricing model. And it's quite a simplistic model here. And it revolves around asking the guest 4 questions. So you ask them, when thinking about this product, at what price do you think it's so low you'd question its quality? At what price do you think it's a bargain? At what price do you think it begins to seem expensive? And at what price do you think it is too expensive? And you spit that into a model. You do some quite sort of funky cumulative frequencies and what have you. And that spits out a really interesting model. And let me tell you, if I can work this out and build the model, anybody can.
And you do that based on on individual dishes?
So the example that I'm going to show you, I did for a particular client, and it was based around a set menu.
Okay.
So it was that they wanted to understand whether or not there was any ceiling in that.
Okay.
So this is what it spits out, and I know it can look quite sort of confusing to start with, but let me just sort of bring this to life. So of those 4 questions that you asked, this kind of gives you these funky lines, and you then can find out here what is the price range that customers tell you that you can charge. You can, it will identify what is the cheapest price that you should, you can go to before you start creeping into customers, questioning its quality. Number 2 is the highest point, and number 3 is the sweet spot.
Great.
And when I did this for said client for set menu, it was super simple. I did, I pulled that survey together, which is 4 simple questions, pinged that out, got 5,000 respondents, put that into the model, and it spit this out. And what it identified was that there was £2 extra that this business could charge for its set menu. When you run that through the numbers, that was about 40 grand EBITDA in a year. And so from a relatively simple exercise and putting some strategy and some methodology behind it, all of a sudden, you as a marketeer can get a lot more shit hot at adding value to the business. And that is our job in marketing. Amazing. Our job is to drive revenue and to drive profit. It's not to fuck about with Facebook and Twitter. It's to drive revenue and profit, and we must remember that. So I don't know if I can swear on this, Dan. Sorry if I have. Yeah. All right. So that is the Van Vestor pricing model. Then I wanted to come on to discounting. So in our industry, we are obsessed by like for likes and obsessed by driving volume. And the challenge that we have there is that when things don't go our way and volume declines, because we don't by 9 times out of 10, we do not understand the weakness of our strategy. The first point that we look at is price. And so we automatically think that its price is the issue. Fundamentally, we forgot the fact that actually it might be our crap marketing. It might be the fact that we have not targeted right, the fact that we have not positioned right, or with the fact that we have not identified the right marketing objectives.
Or delivered operationally, I guess, as well.
Totally. And so we go straight at price, we discount. And the challenge with that is obviously it kills your revenue, it kills your profit, but it also damages your brand long term. And I come from 2 years at Gusto, which is in Italian premium casual dining, and it is the category which sees the most amount of discounts. So I have been there, and I've experienced it firsthand how challenging and difficult it is to not discount when you're sitting in that leadership meeting every Monday, and your volume is not moving in the right way, and you need to demonstrate, you need to drive that top line. So what I also want to share, one of the challenges of discounting is in this book, and so I've got it up on screen. This is well worth a read for any marketeer who is interested in actually what do you need to do to grow a brand, and specifically, and I know quite a few will be into loyalty, actually what is loyalty and how is that driven and why is it important. But the point I want to make here is that if you think that you're going to use discounts to drive new users and grow your brand, you are sorely mistaken. And I have experienced this firsthand. So the example I give is Augusto. So we launched Brunch, and we used some super discounted mechanisms to try and drive trial. And so we ran 2-for-1s for quite a while. And what we saw is we'd see huge spikes in volume and sales. But then we would see a drop off in that volume, and we just wouldn't see there being any incremental growth. And that is because that when you discount, you are discounting to heavy users. And so what you're doing there is you're not bringing new users into the market because it's your more sort of loyal heavy users that are more likely to see your marketing activity. So discounting is definitely not a route. And the final element I just wanted to kind of bring up on here is this, which really kind of helps to bring it to life. So lots and lots of numbers, but let me just kind of bring this to life. So this is the discounting effect on profit. So if you look at the top line, that is your margin that you work at, and down the left-hand side is a discount that you put in, and the numbers in the middle show you that to keep the same margin, if you were to run a discount at that percentage price, what is the volume increase that you need? And these are super scary numbers. So let's, for example, say that your margin is 60%, yeah, and you run a 20% discount. Yeah. You need to increase the volume through your doors by 50% to still drive the same margin. I can tell you that being 10 years in the industry, a 20% just doesn't do that. And so you can really start to see that, yes, you might get the numbers in and it all looks good from a volume point of view, but when that starts to drop down, you will decimate your profits. And so this is just another rallying cry, really, that before we reopen, we need to understand these fundamentals and share that across your team and share it with as many people as you can, that where possible, do not go into this and discount, because you will do some damage to your brand long term. You're also going to decimate your revenue and your profits.
And I think there's a risk of that, isn't there? There's going to be a risk when we come out of this, that there may be a bit of a boom, and then it may tail off, and then hospitality may then start chasing customers. And hitting, we've got a break at this point in consumer behavior, which should give operators the chance to reflect, to look at their menus, to reflect on their margins and see where, how they market and understand all of this great stuff that you're talking about. But it's so important, because actually, if we go back to a discounting model, and it's taken us yonks and yonks and yonks to break the treadmill of Groupon and, and those high street discounts where the consumer was actually, their brand loyalty didn't have any. They had discount loyalty. And the first thing that they would search for was a voucher, and it was a terrible, terrible place to be in like around, the 90s, 2000s, as those platforms boomed. How do you think on all of this, and the session that you do for us on the 18th. I think, you know, I think there'll be loads of people join it. What do you think, like, if Rishi does another Eat Out to help out to get people back out and spending once the tiers are over and hopefully some of the restrictions are lifted, how's that affect all of this?
Well, it's going to drive up volume, isn't it? And it's going to, if you were to, you know, come back to this particular screen here, the effects on the profit and what volume you need to drive, there it will drive considerable volume. I know, having seen some of the numbers from various different clients, that from a sales point of view, it did some good things, and it put some money in the coffers. And so look, there is a reality to this, which is that you can have theory on and important and well documented theory, but it's a challenging one for operators, because you have a reality of businesses that have been burning through cash, and so, you know, they are desperate to get money running through the tills. So look, I think there's going to be some very, very difficult conversations. Should you discount? No, that is definitely the right way. But if there's going to be another Eat Out to help out, you're going to have such huge awareness of it, and huge swathes that don't understand the detrimental effect, and so you're going to have momentum that's generated, and I think that you're just going to get caught up and swept up with that. So it's a really difficult one, Dan.
It is. I think I worry that the public's perception of the price of a meal is vastly and, you know, just damaged when it's been half, you know, £10 being paid by the government. And that's, you know, it's a really hard thing that when they then come back a month later and they have to pay £14 for a main course or £20 for a you know, a steak and chips, that they're like, oh, well, I only paid £10 for that last month. How comes it's gone up 10 quid?
Yeah. Well, therein lies the very essence and challenge of discounting.
Yeah. Great. That's really, I mean, it's fascinating stuff.
I've got two more other things just to share.
Great. Yeah, let's have it.
People can get on in this period before they open. So you can definitely be able to do some researching that I've shared. Have a look at Valuebased model. You can get that away quite easily. The other thing to look at is menu engineering. So again, depends where you sit in marketing in your business. I was fortunate enough in my time at Gusto to own the menu as well. So own pricing and own the menu, and so that would be working with the exec chef to look at you know, trends and MPD, to do the pricing, and then to implement it and to manage that sales mix and to review it. Not everyone in marketing does own that, but if you do have an involvement in the menu, something I wanted to introduce to you was the Star Dog analysis. So let me just bring that up on the screen. So this is relatively, in business terms, well-documented model, and what it shows here is a quadrant. So it looks at sales increasing, and it looks at margin increasing. And so what you can do is that you can put your menu into this model and diagrammatically spit it out, so you can visually see very quickly what are the runners and riders within your menu. So top right is what's called a star. So that is high profitability and high sales. Those types of dishes on your menu, those are the ones that you want to push. They're going to drive the profit into your business. Top left, and I don't know how this is kind of coming across to you, but I've got puzzles. So that's a high profitability, but low sales. So what can you do with those particular dishes on your menu to call them out? Is it a box? Is it put them at the first in a list? Is it putting them somewhere separate? This is you know, you can call out on the menu. bottom right is what's called a horse. So that is low profitability and high sales. So look at those dishes and go back to your exec chef or your ops team, whoever does it, and look at re-engineering those dishes. And then bottom left are your low profitability and low sales. So those are the ones that, again, you might want to consider removing. It might be that those dishes are doing a brand job for you, and so you're quite happy to kind of take that on the chin, because that's reinforcing some of your positioning. And what does that look like? Well, this is just this is for Vaporetto, actually. So you've got the dishes down on the left-hand side, the cost of selling price, your cost of sales. You look at the volume of your sales, and then that spits out and works out percentages, which then drop down into what are stars, what are dogs, what are puzzles. And it's just a very, very visual way of being able to understand quite quickly how your menu is performing and what are the actions that you need to take within your business. And let me just, you might not be able to do this, and Dan, I don't know whether or not you can. Oh, here you go. Yeah. So here was the work that we did for those guys, and that's not going to cost very well on this. But it might be that you can share this, Dan. But I picked this model up for free, actually. Yumpingo did something with Unilever food, and they have a model which you can download, and you can just use that and put your data in, and that can spit out. So look, there is I hope this sort of covered off some important things in there, and you as a marketeer really need to grip pricing, because you can own that by knowing the guests inside out. And by having these types of approaches, it will reinforce and improve the perception of marketing, and move it away from, you know, what I quite often see is kind of in that sort of tactical box. You know, you go and do the nice pretty pictures and stuff, and that's not at all what marketing is about. You need to come right back up and own that just strategic rigor and start looking at the numbers. So look, there you go.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, absolutely fascinating. It's not exactly what I anticipated today, but it's been a real eye-opener. So thank you for that. It's been really good. So just to reaffirm, so James is going to run a session for us on the 18th of March. We'll have that live on our website. So if anybody wants to register it, please go ahead. It's free of charge to attend. It'll be about an hour and a half, something along those lines, with some really good practical examples, as we've seen today, of some of the stuff that you can do to, well, make sure that marketing owns pricing. It's great. What a message. Yeah, why? Absolutely. Very good. Thanks, James. Been really good speaking to you today. Really appreciate your time.
All right, mate. See you later.
See ya.